up, everybody? Welcome back to Big Tuddies Fantasy Football Podcast. Before I forget, if you're new, hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to give us a like at the end of this episode if you enjoy what we talked about and think that we know anything about fantasy football, because we may or may not. And also, for those of you who are listening to us on the audio side, we do have video. You can see our beautiful faces. You can see Tony's weird-looking beard. And guess if Tony has hair.
Weird-looking beard. This beard is
epic. we have three amazing beards on this show, honestly. But anyways, you can find us on video on youtube.com/@loosecannonspodcast. That URL will change soon when YouTube allows us to change it. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And those of you who are watching and don't know, yes, you can listen to us on all audio platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you download your podcasts. Guys, it's week 6 week 5 in the books. Right? Monday Night Football, out of the way. Sunday, all the slates of games, everything. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, though. A lot of stuff to talk about, including Latte and myself having been heartbroken last night on Monday Night Football by one Aaron Jones. Tony, what do we got going on? News and notes here, man, and injuries, more importantly.
Well, first of all, before we get into injuries, you guys got let down on Monday. I got, for the first time ever, knew my fantasy weekend was over. First quarter Thursday game.
Oof.
Really? Jesus. Yeah, DJ Moore. DJ Moore, what, DJ 100 yards in the first quarter?
You were bored. Oh.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that was quite the letdown. I've had the Sunday 1 o'clock game before, which is disappointing, but to know Thursday, come on. It just ruined my week. So I just watched football like a normal patron. Not that I didn't have other leagues, but man, that was just really kind of chapped my sack.
Yeah, the guy that has DJ Moore in our big money, big crap talking league at work also had Jamar Chase.
Oh man!
Rest in peace to whoever faced him. I forgot who it was. It was bad. It was a mess.
Yeah, we definitely had a couple of guys really light it up this week, and some real disappointments. Unfortunately, again, a lot of those disappointments were to injury. Some of the biggest ones to note: Travis Kelce. We got Zeus. Zeus is injured. He's got an ankle going on, so we're monitoring that just to see how serious it is. He's a tough guy. He'll be out there if he can. Plus, he knows just as well as the Chiefs and their entire fan base that is their offense. So he's got to get out there. James Conner, he came out with a knee. They're just workhorse. I mean, he's out there every down. He's going to get beat up. Doesn't seem like it's too serious right now. Again, still monitoring. We'll see what happens. Juju Smith-Schuster, concussion. He should be back by this weekend, I would believe. Devon Achane just got the news. Might be multiple weeks for him. We've got some options for you guys coming up on waivers. We'll talk about that. And the big one, and the big news that we just got. Wow. JJ. Justin Jefferson. This is apparently a pretty severe hammy. So he's getting placed on IR today, which means he will be out for at least 4 weeks. My guess is, he's going to come back strong after 4 weeks. Hammy, all that time off should be good. But again, we're going to have some more options in that department. That's a big hit for people. That's one thing. You put that guy in your wide receiver slot and you set it and forget it for the whole year, Check on him on a bye week. That's about it. So
pretty much,
man.
Tony,
big injuries.
How do you feel as far as James Conner? Would you be suggesting people go pick up Rondale Moore, who's been kind of like a jack of all trades? He's been rushing the ball, passing, catching, doing a little bit of everything, kind of a Swiss Army knife. Or would you go after the backup running back?
I think I'd go after the backup running back just because it was just trying to get it done, trying to figure it out through the game. They did what they could, but I think that Market, I think he came out. He looked like a decent lead back, so we'll kind of monitor it. I'm sure there'll be some news throughout the week, but I do think that it's better to try and pick up that running back, and then from there, hopefully he can hold down the same workload. He's going to get used. So
yeah, and then in reference to JJ. Right, there's a lot of owners, including myself, who have Addison, who came through. Not finally, he had a couple good weeks, week 1 and 2, okay week, and then kind of disappeared, and then came through, big time for me this week. Still lost, but does this mean Addison Do you think this affects Addison more, or like T.J. Hawkinson, Osborne, or is Addison going to go to the moon now? Because I mean,
it affects everybody. I really think Hawkinson owners are feeling real good right now because of his usage already. Kirk's kind of love for the tight end position. And I do think everyone's going to get an uptick. I definitely think we're going to see, if there's a breakout in Addison, it's coming because he's the next guy up. I mean, KJ's
week.
What's that?
See their matchup this week?
Yeah,
Chicago.
Yeah. I think everybody's worth it. KJ's worth a pickup.
Yeah.
Addison, I think he's probably already rostered. People have been waiting for the breakout. If not, grab him. Everybody's coming up there. So, yeah, I feel good even as a Madison owner that he's going to see an uptick. Hopefully, it's enough. I mean, Jefferson draws a lot of attention, so it's going to make it tougher on those other guys, even though they're getting more volume. But got a plus matchup this week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that Devon Achane injury, excuse me. That's
I know it's hard.
That guy's been on top of the world. I think he missed the first couple weeks, and I think he's number 2 in rushing right now, only behind Christian McCaffrey, which is insane. So it sucks, man. The owners that drafted him, I had him in the league. I think I still have him. You heard the buzz in the offseason, and it was like, man, I'm going to stash this guy. And then it paid off, and then here we are. And they're saying it could be multiple weeks he's getting a second opinion, but golly, that sucks. Obviously,
it sucks that he's on a good team, Latte. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They don't have to rush him back. They'll be like, yeah, take your time. We'll be in the playoffs. We have any running back there probably do the same thing. And they got Jeff Wilson from the 49ers, same system. Again, a guy just like Mostert, knows the offense. So,
well, then Mostert had a great first 2 weeks.
I know.
They still
I'm saying they have
it's going to be fine.
Well, and
stable.
Part of the other good news is that Achane's been doing a lot with a little. So there's really not a whole lot vacated there. So the other guys shouldn't really take a dent, or see any real significant uptick. So I think Jeff Wilson will kind of slot right in there, take a couple grabs, and they'll just be business as usual.
What did I tell you guys a couple weeks ago about the London Jaguars?
You said something about Zach Wilson. You also said something about Zach Wilson. How'd that work out, sir?
I didn't pick him up.
Oh, you didn't pick him up? You didn't have...
No, remember, he pulled out.
No. Listen,
you're the pioneer.
You gassed me up. I started him in the league.
Well, I told you. I told you last show. I told you. Listen,
8 points.
I told you I was excited. I was going to do it. But when I looked at that free agency list and I saw guys like Goff, who, by the way, absolutely crushed it for me this weekend. He may have earned himself a temporary spot, or permanent spot on the roster here, honestly.
You're going to start off against the Bucks?
Over at Mayfield of Dreams. We're running a very tight ship, but he may have made it onto the roster for the rest of the season.
That's your team name, bro? Mayfield of Dreams?
Hell yeah.
That's solid. I like it.
So anyway, we're running a tight ship over here. He may have made it for the rest of the season over here. But what I was going to say is because of him being available, I had to do it, right? But, hey, man, the London Jaguars, I told you guys, that is home field for them. They know what they're doing out there. I picked them to beat the Bills as well, man. I mean, I'm just gloating right now because we're going to talk a little bit about some of the highlights and stuff that happened. But, hey, that's my highlight. The Jaguars of London winning again.
And I wish it was one of those situations where, it was good for both. But, the Jaguars, good for real-life football. Not great for fantasy. ETN, hell of a game.
Well,
hope you went out and tried to trade for him, like I said.
Is it time, Tony, if you're a Trevor Lawrence owner where you took him in the 6th round, 7th round, is it time to be concerned, bro? Like, has he scored 20 points this year?
No. And I feel like you've been concerned, but I feel like slowly it's traveling in the right direction here now. But yeah, Trevor's still just not looking like everybody thought he would this year. He's got weapons. Ridley was out there running his ass off. I don't know what the answer is there. I don't know how they lost that momentum they had. Hopefully,
he still put up 300 yards. It's just not a lot of fantasy production in the touchdown department. It's just
and it's a lot of forward and then back up, forward and then back up. So the yardage is stacking up, but you're not really seeing a whole lot of red zone.
Historically with quarterbacks, though, they take a step back in that second year, right, Latte? So this is technically his second year. His first year in the league was with Urban Meyer. That didn't count. Obviously, that didn't count.
Yeah,
They weren't set up as an NFL team. So this was technically his second year in the league. And the other thing to note is that I can't remember their head coach's name right off the top of my head, but that coach's offense kind of has a really nice trajectory in the beginning, and then it kind of plateaus.
Peterson.
Yeah, his offense plateaus and then kind of starts to fall off, and then he's out of a job. So it looks like that's following the same trajectory here in Jacksonville. I think he's a pretty decent quarterback, but for fantasy purposes, I find it hard to put any trust in him. But of course, I have an all-star team, so I'm speaking from higher ground, looking down, that whole deal.
Hot take, and this may be way out there, and I don't care. I don't care. I think I'd rather start Sam Howell. At least he's going to, make stuff happen. Bro, he had 388 yards and 3 touchdowns last week, or 2 touchdowns. It's better than Trevor Lawrence is doing. Trevor Lawrence hasn't done that at all year. So at least Howell gives you the Jameis Winston chance. He's just gonna chuck it downfield, bro.
But you can't trust a quarterback who doesn't understand who the best wide receiver on his team is. That's Sam Howell. Okay, guy just ignored Scary Terry against the Chicago
Bears. Dotson too. Whatever. I mean,
what are we doing here? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't trust a guy who thinks he's Brett Favre but doesn't have eyes. Just leave it at that. Leave Sam Howell where he belongs.
I feel like we definitely saw it. Just the true colors. You got to remember he is young. This is his first time starting. He's going to have ups and downs. He's not a prolific quarterback. We know that. So he's going to be a matchup play. And, even sometimes in a plus matchup like this last week, he might come out and fall on his face. So something to remember when you're streaming with gut. What's that?
Oh, I'm looking this up. Keep going.
Speaking of falling on your face, how about CD Lamb and Dak Prescott? How about the entire Cowboys team, Tony? I needed CD to come through. I thought this could be like a somewhat of a shootout type of game. They might fall behind. They still be able to move the ball, at least in the secondary. But Dak Prescott had himself a Jameis Winston game and was absolutely terrible. And like everyone was saying yesterday, turnovers are in Dak's DNA.
I think Jerry's got some real decisions to make after this year because they're getting to that same level that like Washington was, where they were just looking at Cousins, and it's like, and I think maybe even Minnesota's doing the same thing right now. It's like he's got good games, he's a good game manager, he can get out there, he can spread the ball around, but is this guy going to get us deep into the postseason? And we all kind of thought it was defense last week. They had plenty of time to make adjustments and get out here. I mean, granted, San Francisco, it's tough matchup, probably the toughest when it comes to defense. But yeah, I mean, we expected them to have enough pieces to get out there and at least put something together. Starting to get worried in that department too.
I'm a little worried with the Dak stuff, but the
quarterback's getting rough.
The Niners are just different. I texted this to Sam, or I tweeted it out. They're just different. It's like I'm watching a different sport. They are so fast on defense. Their linebackers are ridiculous. The pass rush, they're just a different sport.
And so
they
well
hit you
coached.
with body blows, and you got Christian McCaffrey, and then you're like, okay, we stop CNC, and here comes Kittle. It's like, oh my God, man, they're just different. And Brock Purdy, for being Mr. Irrelevant, it's about time people put a little bit of respect on his name. Maybe not fantasy-wise, or maybe as a streamer. I mean, he's going to be consistent. His floor is going to be solid. He's not going to blow up games, but at least his floor is going to be solid. It's time people put some respect on Brock Purdy's name. That kid is out there dealing.
Get it done, man.
He doesn't implode and he doesn't miss, which is just wild to see, dude. But and some people are like, oh, he's a system quarterback, this and that. But I didn't see Jimmy G look this great.
Somebody system quarterback. I'm like, I saw some throws out there that weren't system throws over the middle. Yeah. Debo, that deep in route. I'm like, bro, that's not a system thing, bro. You can either make that throw or you can't. That's a stupid throw.
But do you think you could not put up a tutty or two if you had Kittle, Samuel, Ayuk,
yeah,
CFC?
John Gruden looking super silly trying to run the scout team quarterback.
There's a floor. If you're a quarterback with that offense, there's a floor that you're at least 175 and 1 touchdown. It's guaranteed.
You couldn't hand the ball off, bro. You'd get stepped on by one of the linemen. You know how fast those humans move, bro?
Do you know how well I hand the ball off? I don't think you know how well of a handoff specialist I am, dude. I hand the ball off all the time. Every day I'm handing balls off, all right? But speaking of imploding, let's talk about the Patriots and Mac Jones.
Oh, God.
Ooh, Patriots.
What is
Bill,
it talk about?
What's going
I don't
on?
want to talk about
What are you doing if you got anyone on that offense right now?
I'm hitting the panic button, bro.
Jump ship, man.
Ramondre Stevenson, ouch. They're not.
Jeez.
Hey, what's going on? Why are they not targeting him in the passing game? Like, Joe Judge threw him the ball. It worked well. It got their offense going. It was really good for Ramondre. And all of a sudden this year, they just don't want to throw him the ball. And then they can't protect Mac Jones. And he's just doing silly stuff. Why not give him an outlet? You know,
I'd be a little scared. You know that Ramondre is getting met in the backfield a lot. You know, so you swing him out and you throw those little, you know, linear passes sideways. That's where you see those guys get a quick scoop and they're right there to take it to the paint. You know, it gets a little scary especially when they don't really have anybody else. That's what I was saying last week. Like, they don't have an identity. You know, they need somebody that's like, this is our offense, you know, somebody to stretch the field, something. They've got nothing anywhere. You know, they don't. If you had CMC back there, he would be struggling, but at least he would give you something and keep the defense, keep the box stacked a little, keep it forward. Yeah, they're a dumpster fire right now, and it's embarrassing. I mean, I'm loving it.
Hey, you had a good weekend too, Tony. Pittsburgh Steelers pulled off that massive win against
another ugly one.
Ugly Ravens. Hey, a win is a win.
No such thing.
Tomlin does.
No such thing as ugly wins. It's just wins. I got an ugly win this week in fantasy. I got an ugly win this week in fantasy. I had Anthony Richardson, only 4 points. I still scraped out the win, 103 to 98. Am I complaining?
Hey,
Nobody's going to remember at the end of the year that I won that ugly game, but I'll take it.
That leads into our next segment, tops and flops. So let's make this a little bit quicker than we have in the past. I'll go to Tony, you give me your tops, and we'll go to you, Latte, and you can share your tops, and then we'll go over to the other side and do the flops. Tony, your tops of week 5.
Tops, I'm a little torn on who to give it to. I'm just gonna pull 2 receivers out here. Both of these guys, we were just happy to see get going, come back. First one, Jamar Chase. It took him a second during the game. Looked like it was going to be another one, like, oh, what's going on with Joe Burrow? And then bam, 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 bam. And he was always open. He told you, and he made it happen. He looked great, came out there. I mean, it just the wide receivers, there were some guys that went nuts this week. The other guy that I want to mention is just a guy that I've been dealing with out in the league since week 1. Everybody's been just praying he comes back okay and quickly. Cooper Kupp came in and just hit the ground running. I mean, I turned the game on. I had a couple things going on during the game, and I looked over, saw Cooper Kupp, watched the game for a second. Next play, Cooper Kupp. I went in the kitchen, came back, Cooper Kupp. It was just, he was getting peppered. He was up to the task. He looked great. He looked like he's healthy. And that offense is pretty potent now. They've got a lot of weapons. Look out for a little Matty snapback. He's going to make some noise here the next few weeks.
Facts. First, before I give my tops really quick, did anybody tell Arizona that Jamar Chase is the number 1 receiver for the Bengals? Did anybody want to?
No, they knew. They knew exactly.
Yeah, he had people on him.
I don't. They knew what they were doing. They just threw to Jamar Chase over and over again, and the Cardinals just like, okay, here you go. My top.
They're trying to draft a quarterback, Latte. Sorry, they're trying to draft a quarterback. All right.
Yeah, you're right. My tops this week, and it hurts to say because I faced them, and it's why I lost. Breece Hall. They weren't lying. They said that the restrictions were off. It was all systems go. All, pedal to the metal. Got 22 carries, 177 yards. I mean, he just went off with a 72-yard touchdown. Ouch. I was on the other side of that, and it did not feel good. 29 points from this week. My tops is Breece Hall and honorable mention ETN, who played himself in fantasy. Fantasy football is funny. It's painful. It's painful because I'm sure he was like, yeah, I'm going off. And then he checked his phone, and he's like, I went off. I faced myself.
What if he had a bad game and he was a flop, and everyone would be like, hold on. He was going against himself. He had a flop.
That's where it gets sticky.
Yeah. Latte, your flops of the weekend.
My flop. Aaron Jones.
Lot to choose here. Yeah, thank you so much.
Aaron Jones, I gotta say, for me and Sam are like, what a letdown. Very, very weird, Tony. They played on Thursday Night Football, limited snap count. He gets a mini bye, 11 days off before the next game, Monday Night Football. You figure he's going to be full go, right? They had him on a snap count Thursday night. They're just taking it easy, easing him back. And then all of a sudden, there's like very shady, very weird stuff going on. You're not hearing much out of practice. It's just limited, but he's fine. And then all of a sudden, on Monday, I wake up after I have him inserted into my lineup, and I'm, needing 15 points, and I'm hoping he can give it to me against a really good matchup in Las Vegas. I wake up, and they're like, Aaron Jones might not play. Oh, Aaron Jones might not. What? Excuse me, what, sir? What?
Choice.
On Monday morning? Like, you couldn't say that throughout.
Could I interest you in a Hunter Renfro?
Couldn't have told me before the 4 o'clock slot on Sunday.
Yeah.
Couldn't have told me before Sunday Night Football. I could have picked up literally anybody.
Like, hey, he's likely not to play. I would have been like, hey, let me make a move here. No, let's wait till Monday morning and be like, it's likely not to play. And then 3 hours later, he's out. What do I do now?
It's so odd, dude. And the way it happened, why'd you play him on that Thursday Night Football game if you were basically outlook was like, let's get him in back after the bye? Then why would you play him at all? And if he finished the game at Thursday, what was the problem? He didn't play a game since then till now. He had more time off. And it reminds me a lot of what they got going on with Bakhtiari. No one knows what the fuck's wrong with that guy. No one knows any idea why he's playing one week and not playing the next. It's like, what are the Green Bay Packers doing? Do they even have a medical staff? Or are they just like, did they hire that guy that got popped for pretending to be a gynecologist for like 4 straight years, and then somehow did it again and got popped again? Like, is that the medical staff in Green Bay? What are we doing right now? Just figure it out. Either you're in or you're out.
Get my knee checked out.
That's all.
My honorable mention, which may not get Samura's fired up because he's on his bench right now because Samura's team is loaded. But Zay Flowers, like, can I get a tutty, bro? You're getting hella targets. You're catching the ball. You had a couple drops this week. You fell down on a bomb, an absolute like wide open bomb touchdown for like 70 yards. I could forgive stuff like that. But can I get a tutty? Can I get a tutty, bro? Like,
bad game for hands.
OBJ ain't it.
Ravens.
Bateman ain't it. You're it, bro. Can I get a tutty, please?
They all drop passes, though. I will say that they were very consistent. Every single person that he threw the ball to dropped a pass.
Even the Andrews.
Consistently buttery.
All of them.
Touchdown.
All of them. And then
and thanks for doing it this week. Week 5.
I like Joey Porter Jr. standing up after he gets that interception over OBJ and telling him to go be a family man, bro.
He didn't say that.
He said, go be a family man, bro. He said, it's enough. Like, that's it. He basically told him, retire. Yes, he did. He said, go be a family man. Yes.
Truth hurts sometimes.
He is his father's son, bro.
Somebody has to say it. Somebody has to tell OBJ, like, it's over, dude. The dream is over. Sometimes you guys just know when to just, let it go.
Honestly,
Tony,
man, I think he knows the writing on the wall. I think he's, if he just keeps getting that bread.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Get broke off.
I get it. Tony, your flops.
My flops, man, it was a hard week not to, you really had to try not to pick somebody for a flop that ended up with an injury, because that was a lot of what happened this week. A lot of the guys that let down left because they got hurt. I got a few. I can just run through a couple of them here real quick. You got James Cook, went 5 carries for -4 yards.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Okay.
Got great. Nico Collins, thought was going to be the big body, be a nice option for the rookie quarterback. Goes 3 for 39 against Atlanta. Devontae Adams, 4 for 45.
Ew.
Dude. And then, not that everybody was really relying on him, but like we've talked about, it's a flea market at tight end. Hunter Henry goes catchless. Can't catch a target over there. Can't even get a PPR point. Can I get a PPR point?
So bad.
Yeah, some real duds this week.
I'm surprised you guys didn't bring up the tight end, just the machine at tight end that we had over the weekend. Not only Kittle,
dude, which one? We got
Kittle,
Laporta. You got Kittle.
Kittle. Each had 3 tutties. Like, what? Those guys are tops in my book.
They are tops.
I mean, you had. I mentioned DJ Moore getting beat up by him earlier, so I didn't mention him as a top, but he was screaming out of the Thursday night game. And then George Pickens for my boys, he had a hell of a game, and he's just a highlight machine.
What's up with your offensive coordinator looking pissed off after that touchdown? Like what? He didn't. Did you see that, Sammer? There's a clip of showing.
I don't think he knew that they
showing the box and everyone celebrating. He's just like.
I don't think they told him that they scored. I don't think he understood what happened. It was so weird. And then did you know what they were doing in the entire game? The chants out of the Pittsburgh faithful, fire,
Canada.
We all want them out,
fire,
man.
Canada, fire, Canada. Like the entire game.
Done.
Are you serious?
When they're on offense, when they're on, yeah.
It's been going on for weeks.
They can't stand that dude.
We went, Sammer. They're pretty gangster, bro. It's cool. It's a cool fan base, bro. I remember
they're honest though.
When we were there last year. It was like the whole Trubisky versus Pickett thing, right? So people were chanting Trubisky, then chanting Pickett. It was they're solid fans.
It's a great fan base, man. We roll deep everywhere, all over the nation. You know, you go to any game, there'll be plenty of black and gold. And
okay. It's not
I will say though, it's been great. When I went down there, you know, home game against Cincinnati, there was like 5 orange jerseys in the whole stadium, and you know they'll roast them a little bit, they'll give them a hard time, but it's not like Philly where people are like. I've literally been to a Philly game and watch Eagles fans cuss out a 9-year-old girl for wearing a Redskins jersey. Like, at
why
least
are her
we're
parents doing that? Why are her parents doing that to her? They should know better.
I know.
Why would you do that to your child?
It's true.
That's child endangerment.
You should know better. But
here in Tampa, we faced Philly probably about 10 years ago, and there was a story about that, about some disgusting, because that fan base is filthy and just scum, spitting in a little girl's hair over and over again all game, and she didn't notice until she got up. Just disgusting. Disgusting.
Weren't they the ones that threw the D batteries at Santa back in the day?
They did.
They're also the ones that hung the baby dolls in the playoff game against Joe Jurevicius after he'd gotten reports that his child, I think his child was in the hospital at the time.
And wasn't going to make it. It was a newborn baby.
Make it. Yeah, newborn.
His wife basically gave birth like on a Friday. The game was on Sunday. His wife was like, "Go." He was like, "I can't go." She's like, "Go." And then, the baby wasn't. It wasn't good. So he's on the field warming up, and goosebumps because it's on the NFL America's Game, the film. Sapp goes up to Joe and he's like, "Hey, so what's up?" And he's like, "It's not good." But the fans are literally in the background with baby dolls hanging. They're just disgusting.
Yeah, they're different in a not good way.
Do better.
That wraps up our tops and flops of the weekend. We'll be right back with our waiver wire pickups and what we think you should do heading into Week 6. All right, who you guys need to pick up in Week 6? Waiver wires. A lot of injuries kind of happening in Week 5. Some injury news coming up Monday morning, or actually Tuesday morning now as we're recording this. Tony, let's start with the quarterback position. Who are some guys that you should target in the waiver wire side of things if you are dealing with issues, buys, all of that?
Yeah. Issues, buys, injuries. We also had Anthony Richardson go down this last week. He's got an ACL sprain, AC joint sprain.
AC joint.
It's going to be. They're contemplating IR, so it's looking like it's going to be at least 2 to 4 weeks. If he's on IR, obviously he's going to be out at least 4. So you're going to want to put some priority. If you're on a fab system, you may want to spend up for one of these guys, just because you don't know what's going to happen. So at the quarterback position this week, if you're looking at waivers, I think Baker's one of your better options. Baker's been playing really good. Sammer can attest to that. I'm sure Sammer can rattle off some statistics. He's
been killer, dude. Killer.
It's been a good situation.
The blitz, killer in 3rd and long. He's been, I think, the best quarterback on 3rd down in the entire NFL right now. So, yeah, grab Baker. He's got a plethora of weapons if you need him in a pinch. I 100% agree with that. He's got Trey Palmer, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans is back. He just needs kind of a little bye week extension there to get himself back again. So, you got Rashad White.
That was a big thing for me, making sure Mike was coming back. That kind of would have bumped him down the waiver list for me for a little bit. But Mike Evans, yeah, let's go Baker. Come on, man. Also, looking Gardner Minshew, obvious replacement for Anthony. Honestly, man, I think Gardner's he's a good replacement. He's kind of like that Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's going to get out there. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He'll sling the rock. There's going to be games where he's going to have interceptions. There's going to be games where it looks bad, but there's also games where he's gonna put up some fantasy gold. He's gonna target the right guys. You're not going to see that come out where you're just like, who is this no name dude from St. Mary's Community College? This guy's just getting peppered. So I don't really think that you're looking at too much of a dent to your Michael Pittmans. I think Jonathan Taylor's still going to get some pass catching work. I think Minshew's not going to be, he's not going to be anything to write home about, but he's somebody that you could fill in a bye week for sure, and maybe float you through the absence of Anthony Richardson. Also, Josh Dobbs showed that he is, he's capable of a pretty crappy game. He didn't have a great one this last week. Finally threw his first interception, but the Cardinals have been playing great. They've also got some options. They've got a decent schedule. So Josh Dobbs, if you're in a pinch, throw him in there. And you guys talked earlier. Sam Howell is a young guy that's going to make some mistakes, but he's also going to have some games. He's going to string these games together like we saw, where he's putting up 250 and 2. That's good for me on a bye week. If I can get 250 plus, and a couple of touchdowns, I'm happy. That's good enough for me on a bye week. I should be able to make up the rest with my the rest of my juggernauts.
He's just weirdly up and down. Like in a Bears matchup where you're like, this is the one. He doesn't play extremely well. Doesn't play terribly, but he doesn't also. I don't know. It just seemed like he was uncomfortable the entire night. It didn't look right. Like I was complaining earlier, he doesn't target the guys he should target. But it's also the only game I've ever watched him play. So maybe that's just how he is. And Scary Terry's just been doing it on his own somehow. And, it just kind of sucked. That was the week I finally decided to play Scary Terry. And it was scary right. What he put up on my scoreboard there. It was 8 whole points. It's terrible.
Yeah. Nobody had a great game either. I honestly thought once we saw what was going on in the receiving game that Brian Robinson was going to do something. He had a really bad game, but did you see that play where Brian Robinson, he got thrown a little pass in the flat and didn't look at the ball the whole time, and he one-handed it behind him and corralled around with fingers and kind of trapped it. Never looked at the ball. In the meantime, he's juking defenders and everything else. It was pretty wild looking. It's It's like one of the all-22 top-down shots too.
You said Brian. I think you meant Bijan.
No. I'm talking about Washington. Brian Robinson.
I didn't see that play. No, because Bijan had a very similar play on Sunday, where he caught the ball and almost went little Rajon Rondo fake behind the back to catch it while he was juking out guys at the goal line. Ends up getting a touchdown off of it.
Am I thinking of the wrong? No, it didn't end up in a touchdown. So
they had a top view of him doing it as well. It's like for some reason the Falcons only have top views of Bijan Robinson. I feel like that's. Why am I not?
That's that new
it's a
Google
4K
camera
drone
coming,
footage.
man.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It's dope as hell. Speaking of running backs, though, who are some guys you think people should be looking at in the waiver wire if they're in a pinch, or just some guys that might be getting hot that are worthy of a look?
Running backs. This is one that's we need to pay attention to because we've got a few guys that are kind of sliding. Looks like we're seeing a few guys hit their age cliff. We've got some injuries. So one to remember, we've got Devon Achane is looking like he's going to miss several weeks now. So Jeff Wilson's coming back. He's coming back from that that injury that he had. And he's played well when he's been on the field. He's been healthy. So he knows the offense. I think he's going to get worked right in, and it's going to be him and Mostert. That said, Jeff Wilson isn't quite the explosive gadget guy that Achane is, so you may just see kind of 2 decent floors. But he's definitely serviceable in Achane's absence. So Jeff Wilson would be my number 1 this week. Number 2, Jaleel McLaughlin. He didn't have an amazing game. He came out, he put 68 up on the ground. He had another 21 in the air with a touchdown. But I will say that was against the Jets. The Jets have been just standing everybody up. They've got a great defense this year. I mean, everybody wants to talk about what a dumpster fire they are on offense, but their defense has been awesome, and it kind of gets overlooked with the news of the other side of the ball. So I think it was a pretty good showing by a rookie that came out, had to fill in. Javonte Williams, he's going to work his way back from injury, but man, how many times have we been through this? It's just this vicious cycle of we get our hopes up, he comes out, he puts up like, a decent game, and then something happens, he gets hurt, and he's out for a couple of weeks, and then we ride that train all over again. So I think that there's a good chance this rookie gets to work his way in, and I honestly think he could lead this backfield by the end of the year if he continues on. With what I saw, he passed the eye test for me. He looked pretty good. He looked calm in the role. So that would be one. Another guy, Amari Demercado. I hope I pronounced that right. He's the guy that's up behind James Conner. James Conner got hurt again this week. Arizona's backfield isn't the best thing to be looking at as an option, but like we've said with James Conner, there's so much volume there that I think that he came out, he looked decent in the lead role. There's going to be plenty of volume. It's worth a pickup. If you can pick him up and stash him, would be even better. But if you're really in dire need, that would be a name. The other guy, Tajay Spears. I don't think Tajay is going to get as much work as these other guys in the next coming weeks, but we are, again, kind of seeing this decline of King Henry, right? I'm anxious to see what happens once we get into that cold weather where Henry tends to really start just smashing people.
It's
if
weird.
we don't see that this year...
Are they playing him less? Are they putting him on a snap count? Are they trying to extend him so he doesn't get injured this year? Like, it's just weird. I watched little bits and pieces of that game, and he would rip off a decent run, and then they would go to the sidelines. And I was like, what are they doing? And I was going to ask you about this guy, Spears. Is he worth picking up? Is he worth picking up and stashing if you have an empty spot or you have a guy on IR? Maybe just kind of keep him on your roster, see how things go. But it's just weird there.
If you've got a spot, I definitely think he's worth the stash. I've had him stashed. It might not even be a bad fill-in on a bye week if you need to. This week he did find the end zone. He put up a pedestrian line, but you add that touchdown in there, it's enough to get you through. And if you can stash him, yeah, because for some reason we have seen the decline of the snap count on Henry. I don't know why. There hasn't really been any news. They haven't talked about if they're trying to save him and just making sure, okay, well, we just don't want to put 300 carries on this guy again. He is at that age cliff. Let's save him for later on the season. Well, at this point, it doesn't look like they're going to have it later on. So I really don't know what the summary is there. Yeah, so Tajay Spears, good little stash and good fill-in if you need him.
I was gonna add a note to your Jeff Wilson recommendation that if he comes back, he is coming back this week. He may not have a massive game. He might not have a great stat line, but I feel like that's a guy worth stashing as well because considering how long what's his name may or may not be out, the Dolphins like to equip that two-back set and having guys being able to come in and out. They don't really have a bell cow per se, so he's technically going to be the other guy, and he kind of will start to kind of warm up, I feel like. So maybe not massive in this first week back, but his second week back, his third week back, he might put up some decent numbers as a backup option, as something you plug in as a pinch. So that's definitely somebody I would try to stash if I had a spot to stash anybody on.
And he's played really well in that system, and I think McDaniel's gotten things honed in even better since we've seen Jeff Wilson last. So he's definitely a great stash with a guy that's going to get work right away. Like you said, who knows coming back if he's going to have to shake off a little rust. But
they block it really well.
It's going to get pretty thin here soon. Waivers was a little rough last week. This week it's getting even more rough. Now we're getting into the territory where we're starting to offer guys that aren't necessarily, highlight makers. They're not basically guys that are going to benefit from volume. They're just going to have the opportunity.
I don't even know these guys. You couldn't pronounce one of their names. Now, move over to wide receivers. I see your list here in front of me. There's one that's a little interesting on there because he's actually kind of like a running back as well. Who are your wide receiver waiver wire targets, or guys maybe pick up stash or get ready
at wide receiver? This one's going to be important, especially with the news this morning with Justin Jefferson. This is that list, where we're getting into guys that they're just going to get the work. I don't really, we hope they can step up, but a lot of these guys have had chances before, and they're not the guy. They're just a regular dude. They're going to get some PPR points. Start with Quentin Johnston. He's still the question mark, so he would be my number one pickup. They've got a potent offense. That team is putting up more points than most teams out there, so it's the biggest pie, right? When you're looking for somebody, especially when you're trying to pick up waivers, who's throwing the ball if I'm looking for a receiver, who's running the ball if I'm looking for a running back. I need a big pie, and right now the Chargers have one of the biggest. So there is targets to go around. We still haven't seen a ceiling out of him yet. He's still a young guy. They're trying to figure out exactly how to get him out there and make the best use of him. So that would be my number one pickup, as long as Herbert stays healthy and he's okay. He's been getting nicked up here and there, but he's still out there. Second one, Josh Reynolds. Again, big pie over there in Detroit. They're putting up. They're a fantasy factory right now. So Josh Reynolds, he's been out there making plays. He's definitely getting the volume.
If I'm thinking of the same Reynolds, they also use him right. They also use him in multiple ways. They kind of use him as a Deebo Samuel type of guy. He gets wide receiver screens. He gets quick little kind of like slant routes that have blockers in front of him, so almost like a middle bubble screen. He's getting a lot of handoffs out of the backfield. He's coming out of like just literally side cart to the quarterback out of the backfield. Deebo-like again, very CMC-like. So he's getting touches, and they're just now discovering this guy's pretty damn fast and dynamic. And going into a game against the Bucs, which I hate to say, they're going to try to expose matchups where when you put a wide receiver in the backfield like that, you're almost always guaranteed he's going to be up against a linebacker or even a D lineman or an edge guy, and you kind of have a mismatch there. Even if he's on a safety, it's still a mismatch because you can put him in motion, so you get more momentum. So he's
and we saw with them having the lead here this last week, they've got some tricky plays up their sleeve. Once they got that lead, they started pulling some
they were testing plays. They said we were testing plays. I was like, oh, don't say that. You shouldn't say that. But
right.
Panthers should be pretty embarrassed. But yeah, he was one of the guys they were testing plays with. And you're like, where's this guy been? If you're not going to play Gibbs, I get it. But why are we not playing this guy? This guy's a running back / wide receiver / playmaker. And he's never touched the field before. I mean, he's touched the field. But this past week, he looked like he was getting actual looks. And I was like, okay, they got a dude here. And so it's good that you put him on this list. I hope that he doesn't have a very good week this week. But for those of you who pick him up for the future, because obviously he's going to be facing a disgusting Buccaneers defense.
I think if you just need a fill-in for this week and he's available, I think Josh Reynolds would be a better pickup than Quentin Johnston, just because I don't know what's going on. There's something going around in Detroit. It's like in all the injury reports, it's like everybody on offense has been injured at some point in the last few days. So like Jahmyr Gibbs is questionable now. I don't know what happened, whether somebody's just out there slapping kneecaps in the parking lot down at their practice field or something.
They practice hard. I think they're just a very hard coach team. I think that's what it is. They're just practicing.
Oh yeah, he's out there. He's out there doing burpees with him, man. He's a nut job when it comes to that.
They don't get injured in the games. They get injured after the game, leading up to the game. It's like, what is going on from Tuesday to Friday?
Dan Campbell, man. He's out there like, come on, seven more, let's go.
Like, is Dan Campbell just like surprise tackling these dudes in the hallway at the facility when they're like walking to the cafeteria? Hey, keep your head up,
head on a swivel, Rook.
Got to keep your head up, man. You got to make sure you're paying attention, man. And he's just tackling dudes like heading to the cafeteria. There's got to be something going on there. And Jahmyr Gibbs is like, yeah, I didn't sign up for any of this.
Hey,
I know you guys drafted me.
Man. I got my coach trying to bite my kneecap.
What is going on?
Last guy, I really like the way this kid looks. I know you don't like him just by default, but Rashid Shaheed for New Orleans, I see the pedigree there. I think this guy's got the talent. He's had flashes. He flashed at the end of last year. He strung together like 5 or 6 good games at the end of last year, and then came out and he's really had some splash plays this year, but it's been really hard on offense just for New Orleans, period. So that's why he's at the bottom of my list. I think he's capable of a great game if Carr can facilitate one.
And he's a little bit of fool's gold. I'm not to say that he's
Yeah.
not talented, but when you see them do what they did against the Patriots, you're thinking, oh, okay, they're good. The Patriots are really bad on defense right now. And they're just, I don't know if they're doing the best tank job ever, possibly. Who knows? They're just pulling the wool over all of our eyes.
No, they're just getting so banged up.
So I don't know if I could trust Rashid Shaheed because, again, in all the other games, he doesn't get peppered with targets and they don't move the ball well. They don't protect quarterback well. It's a little.
I'd say the ball is not moving well. So I think he's a dart throw. Like I said, I think he has the talent. I just don't know if that offense has it in him right now.
He would be crazy if he was on the Chiefs, or if he was on the Dolphins, or if he was on the Niners, even the Cowboys.
I'd take him on the Steelers. I mean, I think he looks that good. I think if he was on a squad,
not with Canada, please.
Yeah, I've heard the rumors. I'll take Big Ben. Let Big Ben come out, hold the clipboard, call plays. I'll take him over Canada. I really think it was a weird move on our part to, I guess Canada was kind of pointing the fingers at one of the other coordinators, and they said, all right, well, money where your mouth is. They fired that guy and put Canada in charge of quarterbacks also. And it's like, now it's still looking bad. So now what do we do?
For Pickett,
now we have to fire a guy, and now we're out 2 positions.
You gotta get the right guy for Pickett's development. And like when I watched him a couple of times, you're like, I see it. And then this past week, and I watched it, I'm like, this guy has zero pocket awareness. What's he doing right now? How does he not feel that? How does he not see that? How is he not pre-snap reading some of this stuff? And then you think, who the hell's coaching him? So that like relationship, that stuff matters, and that plays a big factor in it. But the other side of it is like, if you fire a coordinator in the middle of the season, or even after 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is, where are you going after that? That's like, it's one thing to fire him, but that's only one side of that coin. Now you have to hire someone else or promote someone else. And if you don't think that there's anybody on his, if you don't think there's anybody on that staff that's even worthy of that, what's the point in it? They just be like, let's just ride with what it is. Deal with it at the end of the season when we can actually sit down and hire somebody from the outside, because you're not gonna just go hire and John Gruden type of guy just walking around the streets waiting for somebody to call him. You guys like Byron Leftwich waiting to be called, and
it would be like a knee-jerk hire.
Yeah, it doesn't happen either. You don't bring in brand new offensive coordinators. It doesn't happen.
Trying to fill 2 positions now because you decided to let him try and prove himself by running 2 positions. It's just it's not. It's not an ideal situation. Like I said, I was expecting this year to be kind of a rebuild, but I didn't want it to be so ugly. I kind of wanted people to look at it like, oh, it's just a young team. They're trying to get pieces together. They're trying. I didn't want people to look at us and be like, oh, your coach is putting everyone in danger. Like that's where we're at this point. Like, I mean, they blamed Pickett's injury on him last week, and I kind of see, I see it. I mean, I understand why he did it, but it didn't need to be done. And then last, to fill up, to finish off waivers here, because we did have a couple of tight ends go down, especially Kelsey owners are probably sweating bullets right now. Logan Thomas, even though Washington wasn't great, he was their ray of sunshine. A lot of targets.
A lot of targets.
He's been getting a lot of targets here the last few weeks. He got in the paint this last weekend. And he's been around. He's a veteran guy. He knows that is one nice thing out of the tight end position. It's cool to have the new fancy rookie tight end that's big and he's got the wingspan and this and that. But the tight end position is not the easiest position in football. And when you got that veteran guy that he understands, how to rub somebody, he understands, okay, this is my option here. It's just a good blanket, good security for these young quarterbacks, and I think Logan Thomas is going to continue to see targets, and he's going to continue to get work. If he can stay healthy, he's probably going to be a top 5 tight end here because it's getting real ugly at the tight end position. Luke Musgrave, also again, Green Bay Packers. He's still getting looks. I was kind of hoping for more out of him at this point. We all got a little overzealous with Sam Laporta, who's the #1 tight end on the year right now as a rookie, doing great. Musgrave's
draft value. Talk about draft value with that dude. He may have been a free agent pickup after the draft on some people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there was a lot of people that he was just sitting on waivers week 2, week 3 even. The tight ends, the guys that don't hold chalk a lot of times, they're just sitting out there. Tyler Conklin, also the last guy I'll mention, another struggling offense, but is a guy that he's getting looks. He can make a few things happen. Zach Wilson seems to kind of fancy him a bit. So if you're in a pinch and you absolutely need to, if you're without Kelsey this week, there's nothing out there. Conklin would be my last choice, but he is at least a little bit better than some of the other flea market guys.
I was going to add, I've been saying that I've been loving what the Texans have been doing all season long, and that they ended up getting the better quarterback out of everybody. Maybe 1B, 1A between him and Richardson. I just don't know what to say about Richardson yet because he's been injured in and out the lineup. But they also had one bright spot in a weird loss that they had against the Falcons, and that was their tight end, Dalton Schultz. So I'm curious what you think about that guy. It's taken him a little bit of time to get going, but I think he was 10 of 13, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He seems comfortable now. It looks like he's probably going to be the second best option for the Texans moving forward in that offense. They have a breakout wide receiver that what's his name loves to throw the ball to, but Schultz is starting to kind of work his way up into that. 13 targets as a tight end on that's a big deal for me. So I think from here on out, 50, 60, 70 yards and a touchdown maybe every single week, maybe half a touchdown, but that's a guy that I think you should kind of mention in there because he's trending upward and probably a name not many people even realize is in the NFL.
Not a bad mention, and with Tank Dell, depending on how serious that is, he got a little banged up also. Excuse me. He could see some more work. My only concern in that area is if Dell comes back, you've got Collins there. A lot of times it's hard for a rookie quarterback to carry several fantasy options. You're going to see he's probably going to continue to pepper these receivers when he has them healthy. Then that's probably why we haven't seen a lot of Dalton Schultz so far. But we've seen Schultz do well in other systems. When he played in Dallas, he looked great. So he's there. He's an option. And with Dell out, he might see a great uptick. He might be a good fill-in this week as well. I'd probably put him up there with Tyler Conklin. That's not a bad mention, actually.
Second best option on the team right now, dude.
Just keep that in mind. A lot of times, rookies aren't going to put up 4,000 plus yards in their rookie season. He's on his way to it, but we just got to remember he is a rookie. We kind of got reminded that with Sam Howell. But in my eyes, they won the rookie sweepstakes with Stroud. I think, it could be 1A, 1B with Richardson, but I just think it's a different archetype, right? You're looking at Stroud as more of that pocket guy with good awareness, smart with the ball, and Richardson, although, we have seen some great throws, which was something that was in question with him. I think he is going to be kind of like typecasted, for lack of a better term, into that kind of Cam Newton role. When you got that big body.
He's their Jalen Hurts.
When you see Jalen Hurts winning that tush push every game, they're just tush pushing him in for 2 tutties every week. How can you not when you got Richardson? The guy's a thoroughbred friggin' Clydesdale, and
I think Bryce is more. You could put him in any offense at that point, right? It doesn't have to be so specific to the head coach and the system that, like Richardson.
Talking about Stroud.
I mean Stroud. Sorry, CJ Stroud. He fits into that. He's any team that would have drafted him was probably going to get a very similar version of what the Texans are getting from him. Not to take any shots at their coaching, but Richardson had to be drafted by the guy who coached up Jalen Hurts, ran a system very similar and to their skill set, so it kind of works in that way. But you could see this past week when he had kind of a safety valve or he needed to lean on somebody, he was leaning on his tight end. And I mean, 13 targets is a big deal. He was their second option, and he's kind of becoming like a security blanket. And you see rookie tight ends, or not rookie tight ends, you see rookie quarterbacks find guys like that, maybe a fullback, maybe an H-back, or usually a tight end that they kind of lean on as the season goes on as their safety valve, as the guy that gets them out of trouble. And he's so smart. You can see how smart he is in terms of understanding what's going on around him. He's not going to hold the ball on too long. So when you don't have Tank out there playing, Schultz good second option, and he looked it definitely this week. Is it going to be all season long? I don't expect him to go over 100 again, maybe once or twice more, possibly. But in a pinch, I could see a good 50 yards, maybe half a touchdown, maybe a touchdown here and there. So be so somebody I wanted to mention, because I did watch. For some reason, that game was on Red Zone a lot. I don't know if it was a time slot or what it was, but I saw a lot of that game. And I was like, who the hell is this dude here? And then I was like, all right, this quarterback, the Texans are. Can't believe they lost the game. They really shouldn't have lost that game. It didn't feel like they were going to lose that game, but they did.
No, and I'm quietly kind of pulling for him when I see him, in games, just because Stroud's doing so well. I like seeing the rookies come out, especially when it's smart football. It's again between the two archetypes, you're kind of talking about, like Richardson is measurables that you can't teach, right? You can't teach size, you can't teach speed. So those things get exploited regularly because you have the advantage when you have somebody of that size and that speed. Whereas Stroud's getting out there and his is taught, So in the long run, yeah, dynasty owners, Richardson, you're looking great because he can be taught how to be a smart football player and when to hold on to the ball, when to let go of it, all these things. So in the long run, that big body archetype with all that athleticism, once he learns the stuff that Stroud seems to already inherently know coming out of college, you're in a better position. But right now, it's just fun to watch a guy come out. Like, these are kids, man. They're like early 20s, and they're leading a national football franchise, and he's doing good, man. So I'm quietly pulling for him. I've never really. It's funny because I've never really followed the Texans or even give them much thought, and now they're finally
outside of Arian Foster, I've had no reason to watch that team play, but now I'm like, I'm rooting for these guys, man. Let's get these guys winning games. I think they got a really good head coach. I think they nabbed a really good head coach, which is pretty wild to say considering the 49ers are just churning out head coaches now and still winning games and still developing players and still continuing to play ridiculous defense while their defensive coordinators are being just picked up by all the other teams. I will take you as a head coach, take you as a head coach. And then the Texans also have really good young pieces on defense. They played a good defensive game. Like I said, it didn't feel like they were going to lose that game, but they did. So, yeah, dude, I'm rooting for them. And you know what? I'm not one of those guys that roots for all these young quarterbacks. I've kind of been a Joe Burrow fan because I'm watching him play, and I'm like, this dude this guy's wild and fun to watch. It's so fun to watch him play. But in Bryce Young, I'm like, not Bryce, CJ Stroud, I'm in, dude. Like, let's go, let's do this. And it was like he was the least talked about of the quarterbacks, which is wild. And he's kind of right now he's the best of the bunch, which is again underdog story. So I'm like all in. He doesn't talk a lot. He just kind of puts his head down, shows up for work, does his job, and does it really well. And you're like, okay.
I thought it was cool in an interview where he basically came out and said, you kind of wonder where these guys' heads are at too. Is this guy really vain? Is he going to come out? Is he going to be the Cam Newton thing where he's Superman posing and just dressed to the nines after 10 minutes out of the locker room, he's got on his Sunday's best and all that. But no, they in an interview, he was talking about how he basically just wanted to make Houston proud and wanted to see them be able to put their jerseys on again without and just feel good about it, because it was funny because when I heard that, I was actually watching a Giants game and I started looking around the crowd, and when you look at the jerseys in the Giants crowd, it's all Eli, and it's like, man, this is a player that's not in the game anymore. And honestly, I mean, Eli wasn't that great. So
but you see a lot of Steelers fans like that too, though. I mean, you see Big Ben jerseys. You see Hines Ward jerseys. You see, that the guy Palomar. You see all those like legend guys. You don't see you see a couple Pickett jerseys. You don't see many other. I mean, what would probably be the number one jersey? I would assume, right?
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than
he's
that,
the
you
only
really
current jersey I have right now.
yeah. So you don't see all these other guys, and not to say that Bucks fan base.
I'll get one for you, Pickens.
But like, there's just I think it's littered through a bunch of other. You see these fans that come to town always with the Bucks games, and I'm like, why are you walking in here wearing this jersey from 1975? You can't even, this dude hadn't played for you guys. You don't even have another. Why are you wearing a Troy Aikman jersey at a Cowboys game right now? Cut it out.
Yeah, right.
Put on a DAC. Put on a DAC at least. Or I remember, dude. We'll kind of end the show right after this story. We went to Dallas last year for the Bucks in the Cowboys game, and we were in this section where there was a dude who was talking mad smack, and he hated his team and he hated us, and he was just upset. He was a Cowboys fan, and he had 2 jerseys with him. And the guy behind him had 3 jerseys with him. And they would switch jerseys based on how well that player was playing or not playing. And so he started with a Dak jersey, took it off after the first half. He's like, man, screw this guy. He's playing like hot garbage. He puts on I think it was a Zeke jersey. That guy doesn't play well. He's like, man, I got this thing on. He takes it off and just sit there in a white T-shirt. And the guy behind him's already made 3 or 4 different changes to his jersey. And you know what's crazy? The majority of the fan base absolutely hates Zeke. When they would give him the ball, everybody would start complaining. I was like, I've never been to a game where everyone is complaining about what usually is considered, this guy's considered to be their star running back, right? And this is before Pollard kind of got the things rolling for them halfway through the season. But Zeke, at the beginning of the season, that's our dude. And they just paid him and all that. And half the fan base is like, no. They start booing when they give Zeke the ball. I'm like, what is
They're
going on
a funny
right
fan base, man. That is a franchise that they're kind of all over the map. They've got some real diehards. My dad was actually a Cowboys fan because he was stationed in the military. He was in Texas when they started the franchise, and he wasn't really a huge football fan. This was years ago. He was drafted into Vietnam, and so he was like, all the guys at the base are into football. Who's around? Oh, these Cowboys guys just fired up this year. They're local. All right, yeah, I'm a Cowboys fan, and so they've got some diehard fans out there, but they're they have a little bit of that New England thing going on where a lot of them are bandwagoners. It's like when they look good, here they come, we them boys, and then when they start streaming together some stinkers, it's crickets out there.
They're a weird fan base. They have such high expectations that is wild to me because they haven't even come close to those expectations for 20-something years. You're like, all right, man. And you might need to just lower them a little bit. The bar is set, I get it, to the Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith time. But, you need to get back down here. Let's just expect them to do what Tony Romo could do. Let's get him.
I get shocked. Well, Tony Romo couldn't even get them through the playoffs. It's like I get shocked when these teams. Who was a guy? Was it Marvin Lewis for Cincinnati? It was like I'd have these fans from the Bengals. Being a Steelers fan, the Bengals fans always like to chirp, and it was like for so long they'd come out Steelers would have a bad game. They'd be talking trash, and I'm like, nah, man, come back to the table to talk trash when you guys have won a playoff game in 20 years. The guy hadn't won a playoff game in 18 seasons. How do you hold on to a coach that has not gotten you into the postseason in 18 years? And you just see these guys that just keep getting the pass year after year after year. Yeah, he was there forever.
What? He was a head coach for 18 years, or he was a defensive coordinator and then head coach?
But I think, he was with the franchise that long.
Okay.
And it was a head coach for most of it, and no playoff wins.
Hey, they got Joe Burrow now, dude. That is I hate that he's injured, though. I hate it because he's such a dude.
I will say, I've always said that I like to play people at their strength. I like to see a good game, and I've come around a lot. I was not a Bengals fan whatsoever when it was Perfect and Pac-Man, and it was just I saw a lot of dirty plays out of their defense, and that really kind of chapped my ass. But Burrow seems like a stand-up dude. You've got Jamar Chase there now. They've got a new regime on offense, and they've got different pieces on defense now. It seems like those guys are out there to play ball, and they get out there, they sling it. And it's fun to watch. I'd like to see a good game, where I think both of our teams are firing on all cylinders and we actually get some smash mouth football. But I've come around a little bit on their franchise. They're still.
You won't, because the Steelers are not good right now, unfortunately. Sorry, man. Sorry to say that. You guys got to get a big win. Lamar didn't play exceptionally well. The team around him played absolute garbage. Everyone dropped a pass. It was fun by all. Fun was had by all.
It's painful to watch this because
it was a garbage game, dude. It was so.
We get so W's, terrible. And it just takes us farther and farther away from that better draft capital, and it doesn't mean anything.
Good pieces, but you guys got good pieces. You got Joey Porter Jr. That kid is a dog. You guys got decent wide receivers. Pickens is ridiculously talented.
Yeah, we got TJ, we got Minka.
Yeah,
we've got pieces. Man. We need coaching, and if we're not a team that is going to get deep into the postseason, stop getting these ugly wins.
I know, but there's too much culture in that building, and I tend to agree with that. Yeah. Like this whole, I know, like floating in that mediocrity world is like terrible for teams, but you can't. Tomlin's not gonna have them lose on purpose. I think
he's not going to tarnish his
They just
record.
need a better offensive coordinator, honestly, that understands the weaknesses and doesn't try to kind of force a square peg into a circle hole. Got that one this time. If those of you who follow me on other podcasts, I did not nail that analogy at all the other day. I said couldn't fit it in the right hole or something like that. I destroyed it. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out. All right, Tony, this was fun. For those of you out there listening, remember, you can watch us on youtube.com/@LooseCannonspodcast. We are under the Loose Cannons Network, so that URL will change eventually. And, of course, you can listen to us on all of your podcast audio platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, wherever, iHeart, Google, all of them. All right, we'll be back later on this week to give you guys a preview of the coming slate of games and pick our winners and get you guys ready for week 6 of the NFL. Fantasy football is flying, dude, and so is the NFL season, Tony. It's going to be fun, dude. Hope you're ready, man. Week 6 is going to be a doozy.
Yeah, good luck with your waivers, guys.
Yeah, good luck. Big Tuddies bouncing out.
Let's bounce.